Today we're going to take a short break from Darth Dawkins, and I've got some more Matt Adams for you today. He's not doing slave apologetics, he's doing Christian nationalist apologetics. And Christian nationalism is not about Christian nor nationalist. It's about Christian fascism. It's a long one, but stick around and enjoy.
Foundation for Western society and why Western society has been so successful. And I think it's time we get back to that. Okay, we have, is it Brandon?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
I disagree with that notion that America is and always has been a Christian nation.
Well, just so we're clear, I didn't say that. I actually specifically said I'm not saying America is a Christian nation. What I'm saying is that the principles and stuff that America was founded upon came from and derived from the Judeo-Christian viewpoint, worldview. And I think it's when we start trying to separate ourselves from that.
What's the benefit of that?
What's that? What's the benefit of it? Well, it gives us...
What's the benefit of going back to that?
Because it gives us consistency. We don't have these...
For who?
Confused for everyone. I mean, you look at...
But what if I'm not Christian? Why is that?
Well, I think even if you're not Christian, I think you should at least ask yourself, why is it the case that some just mere man 2,000 years ago in ancient Palestine, from a 3-year ministry, totally transformed the world? Who was he? Why is he so influential?
It's a collection of made-up bedtime stories.
He didn't do that alone, did he?
Yes, he did that.
Did he do that alone, or were there other outside influences that?
It was really? Well, obviously.
So the church had nothing to do with that.
You're asking me from my Christian perspective. Yes, he did that alone. This was God's work because God worked through him because he is the Son of God.
I can't wait for 2,000 years from now whenever everyone thinks Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter actually happened.
Well, I don't think anybody will think that.
I mean, that's the way you think about
because
Lord
of the Rings, even Lord of the Rings was inspired by Christianity. Even Harry Potter, you could look at the book Harry Potter and kind of these underlying moral viewpoints of Harry Potter.
Let me ask you these two simple questions. Do you understand separation of church and state and freedom of religion?
Yes.
Okay, so when you say it's time to get America back to Christianity, you Christians are the ones that stopped practicing what you preach. It's you guys that are constantly contradicting yourself.
Okay, so if we start
let's just start with the people that you guys are all in favor of being president, like with your caption right now.
What's that?
Said you want to be like, oh, when did we stop practicing what we preach? Look at your caption right now with the new president. When the hell has this dude ever been Christian?
I didn't.
Besides when he tear gassed citizens for a photo op to hold a Bible upside down in front of a church, let alone all those people with him, didn't even want to say, hey, you're holding the Bible upside down, flip it the right side up. Want to know why? Because they know he's a fucking tool and a loser.
I didn't say that he was a Christian, but if you remember correctly,
but
and this is
no,
hold on,
like this is what I'm talking about. When you contradict yourself right off the bat.
I'll let you finish. I never said Donald Trump was a Christian. Never made that claim. Whether he is or not, I don't know. When you talk about what happened in 2020, August of 2020, when that happened, this shows the inconsistency of people because they had a problem with what happened on January the 6th. Oh, how dare these people try to overthrow the government? But that's exactly what they were doing in 2020 in August, trying to overthrow and call for the overthrowing and dragging him out of office. Well, the irony is them idiots were actually... What
are you talking about?
That church did.
They were trying to drag him out of the office. Are you fucking drunk right now?
Yes, there's actually videos in which they're calling to go in there and take him out.
No, they weren't.
I mean, yeah, they were. It was on YouTube.
It'll be funny to watch.
This is the thing. You guys don't know this stuff. And because what you've been so indoctrinated into
Dude,
inconsistent
you
doctrine,
believe in a 2,000-year book filled with
you don't
children's
know
stories,
how
and you want
to
to tell me
you
what
don't
I'm
know how to
indoctrinated
think.
to?
You don't know how to think openly.
I don't know how to think
He was
openly. You
actually
believe in a book that's 2,000
I bet
years
you don't
old.
even know. I bet you he doesn't even know the church that Donald Trump posed at during that photo op. They actually tried to burn down, them dumbass protesters did. That church actually had a daycare in the
Can I
bottom of
ask
it.
you a question?
No, you can't, not yet. Luckily there was no
That's a
children
good
in the
question, though.
daycare. Luckily there was no children in the daycare. But I want you to tell me what y'all thought these stupid dumbasses were trying to accomplish by burning down a church that had a daycare in it.
It's actually really funny that you mentioned that burning down because recently it was, I think, awarded the, uh, what was it, the copyright or something to the actual Proud Boys moniker because the Proud Boys had tried to, or they did vandalize that same exact church. Um, so yeah, now the
Oh, wait a
church
second.
that
So
you're talking about,
you're saying the Proud Boys was the one that tried to burn it down during those protests. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that. I'm talking about just in general. That specific
Okay,
church
well,
now owns the.
whatever the Proud Boys did, if they did that, that was wrong. But what I'm saying is, when people whine and complain, oh, look at how Donald Trump tear gassed these people. Okay, look, if I'm out there protesting and there's protesters,
So
hold on, I'm almost finished. There's protesters trying to burn down a church that has a daycare in it,
that wasn't
and I
happening when
just
the.
let's just happen to say I wasn't involved, but I was there. If I get tear gassed, don't I
So
bear some responsibility for that?
host, when Trump tear gassed those people, they were peaceful. It was the middle of
No,
the
they
day on
weren't
a.
peaceful.
No, stop.
Yes.
You're getting your timeline wrong. I'm correcting you.
No, see, that's the
It,
problem.
it was
They
the
keep
middle of the day, and you were so
they,
soft whenever anyone has an opinion you don't like, you kick them like a little.
they keep saying that it was peaceful. Well, what I'm saying is there was no peaceful protest. See, the media kept trying to say they were so stupid that they would stand there while buildings were burning and saying the protests were largely peaceful. What I'm saying is, I don't, you can say all you want, the people that day were acting peacefully. I don't give a crap. The fact is, these people were right there, right where they tried to torch this church, even if it's the night before, and they're out there. They're still out there protesting. Why would you not think that that would be considered threatening? If I were in a situation where I was supposed to be, quote, a peaceful protester, and someone was doing this to a building, and the next day that building was still there after they tried to destroy it, and there's still large amounts of people around, and you couldn't tell which ones were the peaceful ones, which wasn't not, I'd be damned if I wouldn't. I'd get out of there. I'd be like, okay, I'm out of here. I don't support this stuff. These people were too stupid to do this. They hung around, and the fact that they got tear gas, I don't feel sorry for them. Now, if it had been the case that they'd never tried to burn down this building and they were just out there peacefully protesting, then I could see the point. But what I'm saying is that's not actually what happened. And what I'm trying to say here is, and you guys aren't paying attention to anything I'm saying. That's a problem with atheists. They want to straw man and they want to not pay attention to what anybody's saying. I'm saying people are tired of the BS. They're tired of being told that they can't express their opinions on certain things. That's why Kamala Harris got destroyed in the election. And I'm saying it's time to
She got
actually,
destroyed because she only had 5 months
for
to
Christians
prepare
to
for the
actually
election.
stand up and actually say, hey, you atheists, you don't know what you're talking
Are you
about.
done landing so I could debate or
You
no?
haven't studied this stuff. You are one of the problems. People who have denied Christianity are one of the problems of why we're in the situation we are now. It's time to get back to sound doctrine, consistent teaching, and consistent understanding on who we were, who we are, and where we came from. That's all I'm saying. Okay, now what I want to do is, um, since we've kind of cleared that up, got that out of the way, I want to know why atheists think that Christianity is such a problem to be studied and to look at in our society. Why is Christianity such a problem? There's a couple of states now that are proposing this idea, and I think it's a great idea, to study the Bible in history. And I think it's a great idea because it's the Bible that gave us it's the Bible that gave us the foundational beliefs that we have. It's Christianity. So why would you not want to study that just from a historical perspective?
Can I answer?
Sure.
Okay, so the reason why we don't want the Bible in schools, do you know what boarding schools are?
Boarding schools?
Native American boarding schools. You know what happened in them?
Yeah, supposedly Canada and yeah.
No. Yeah.
Had something to do with Canada, yeah.
No, it happened over here in the United States too. You know that, right?
Well, it's
you know that we don't want to go back to a Christian nation because
But we are a Christian nation.
No, we're not.
We're not.
Yeah, whether we like it or not.
No, the freedom of
freedom of religion and separation of church and state. Get those two in your head before you fucking repeat yourself.
Whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, it's separation of church and state and freedom of religion. Shove the Bible up your ass.
You're just afraid to admit it.
Let me destroy him. So
you guys are afraid to just admit that you're cultural Christians.
What does that mean?
So what I mean by that is even Richard Dawkins, who's an atheist, admits this. So why is that such a problem to admit?
What is a cultural Christian? What does that mean? What does that term mean?
A cultural Christian is this. It doesn't necessarily mean the person is a Christian. Even an atheist could be a cultural Christian. It means that your society has been shaped, your moral framework, your ideologies, your beliefs have been shaped in some form because of Christianity. And
does that mean I'm a Christian?
No, it just means that the idea of cultural Christian is what I believe most atheists are today. When an atheist says, I was raised Christian, I was a Christian for 40 years of my life, and then I became an atheist, what I'm saying is they were never actually a born-again believer. They were never actually a Christian. But I would say they were a cultural Christian in the sense that their livelihood and their beliefs and stuff were shaped by Christianity.
How can you make that determination for every single atheist?
Well, they make it for me.
How?
Okay, so when I ask an atheist, why is it the case that so many atheists as a whole are hyper fixated on Christianity and borderline, in some cases, bootlicking other religions like Islam? Why is it the case that you seem to think Christianity is the problem and you just kind of virtually ignore these others? The common answer I always get is those other religions aren't forcing their beliefs upon us. They're not trying to transform society the way Christianity has. Christians have Christians have legislated their beliefs. They've done all of this stuff in society. We're tired of it, and we're not going to take it anymore. That's why we do this. Well, why
does that not make sense, though?
Well, it does make sense if that's what you say, but that implies that you're a cultural Christian. It implies that your society has been shaped by Christianity, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
right?
But if you have people that were born in the Middle East, right, they'd be culturally Muslim, right?
Sure.
So what's your point? If you had Muslim people, if you had cultural Muslims in those countries, those atheists would be primarily shaped by Islam, and I'm sure they would primarily focus on Islam. So your point doesn't really hold any weight.
Well, the reason why it holds weight is when you guys criticize Christians or the Bible or something like that for stuff that you consider immoral. The reason why you think it's immoral in the first place and then hold to those beliefs was because it was shaped by Christianity to begin with.
But
so you're actually you're actually using the very tool that shaped your viewpoints to criticize.
Objective morality doesn't come from the Bible. Morality is not entirely based in the Bible. But
let me ask you this. There's a common argument that atheists make to say the only reason why you're a Christian and hold to Christian beliefs, just as you were just saying, is because you were born in a Christian society, right?
Say that again.
You agree with that, right? You were literally just making that argument. So you agree
Say
with
that again.
The only reason why an atheist will say the only reason why Christians hold to certain beliefs is because they were born in a Christian society. If they'd born in a Muslim society, they wouldn't hold these beliefs. You were just making that argument, right?
I mean, sure, but that goes for
Okay.
any belief.
Now,
That doesn't mean
also the reason why y'all fight against Christianity and borderline bootlicking Islam is because Christianity has shaped your society. These beliefs have been forced down your throat, according to y'all, own society. So what I'm saying is, by those two arguments, those two premises, then we would just assume that your whole moral framework has been shaped because of Christianity, right? And your viewpoints, things that you hold to be important, like, health
not
care
entirely,
for all.
because I could
Okay,
have
well,
experiences outside of religion, right?
So what I'm saying here is, based on your own argument, you're admitting that's the case. And I'm saying because an atheist, the entailment of their argument is that is the case, why would an atheist not simply say, okay, you know what? I agree with you here. We should be able to look at the Bible objectively in school and understand the importance it has on our history and our beliefs.
Because what value does that bring for people that aren't of that
Okay,
religion?
so but the problem is you have no problem doing that to other things. Like if we
What
were
do you
talking
mean?
about philosophy and things like classical logic or something, an atheist would have no problem if we were to read up on what Aristotle or Plato thought about certain things, or what was taught there. These ideas that from Greek philosophy and stuff that influenced our beliefs, right? So why wouldn't you do the same thing? Want to do the same thing about the Bible and Christianity?
Well, philosophy and religion are similar but not the same, right? Those philosophers are talking about abstract concepts. They're not painting a unique brush for a certain religion, if that makes sense.
Okay, so how about why don't we just
Right.
talk
I agree,
about
right? I think it's important to look at different cultures and different
why don't
religions so
we
you can
just
gain a
take the
broad
teachings
perspective.
from the Bible and say, hey, this is what the Bible authors thought based on their views, and this is what they taught. We can do that, right? We can do the same thing that we're doing with Aristotle and Plato.
But would you do that also?
Right?
But would you do that for other religions as well?
Yes.
Or just
So
Christianity?
my question, what's that?
Would you do that for all religions or just Christianity?
Sure, what we can do is say, hey, you know what? Let's look at the influence Christianity had on the West versus Islam, and what they believe versus what Muslims believe. Well, what we're going to find here, obviously, is Christianity is the one that transformed the West. So why is it such a problem? If you guys think this is just a big fake religion, why do you have such a problem with at least looking at it from that perspective?
I don't think anyone has a problem looking at things from a historical perspective. I don't think anyone's arguing.
So Oklahoma or these states that are saying, hey, we want to teach the Bible in school from a historical perspective, they're not doing anything wrong, right?
Well, the problem
send your kid to a private Christian school then. Plain and simple.
You can't do that with government funds.
Then it sounds like to me you just want to hand wave it away. Why wouldn't you just want it to be in the public school system?
Because that goes against the First Amendment directly.
You're not forcing a religion on
So do you want those kids in public schools being taught Sharia law, being taught the Quran, all that shit as well?
Well, what I'm saying is,
what I'm saying is there isn't putting Christianity on the pedestal and fuck all those other religions.
I'm not even saying you should teach them the Mosaic law. I'm saying that you should say, hey, when we look at our laws today, where did these laws derive from?
Protestant beliefs.
When we look at our beliefs today, where did they derive from? Why do we have this idea today that it's
Protestants, Christians, Quakers, can keep going on and on with how they were all different founding fathers.
Okay, so we can say Jesus
They
Christ,
all had different beliefs and they found common ground is what we can say.
Don't you think if you really want to teach freedom of thought and actual
Let me ask you
open-mindedness-
this real quick. You believe that in Christianity, God's responsible for everything, right?
I believe that God is responsible for creating everything and putting it
Okay,
in
so I'm
order
gonna
the way
I'm
it
gonna
is.
rattle off a couple things here. Let's see what you think of them. Childhood diseases in general.
Indirectly.
No,
How?
just simple things. Do you think they're
Because of
good or
free
do you
will.
think they're
I
bad?
believe that God gave us free will.
So
See,
children
This is the
born
thing.
with
It's always, I believe this, I believe that. No, there's so much bullshit out there in the world that you can't sit
Okay.
there and be like, well, God did
Well,
all
then-
the good things and he gave us all these bad things, but the good outweighs the bad in my case. Like,
Yeah,
churches literally move around
wouldn't you agree?
children
wouldn't
as
you
heirs
agree,
in their church and cover them
Wouldn't
up
you
and
agree
hide
that
it.
there's more good in the world than there is evil?
not thanks to the church.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
Exactly.
question. Do you agree that there's more good than there is evil in the world? Yes or no?
I'd
No.
say it's probably about even at
I
times.
can't.
Oh, it's
I
about
can't.
even then. Okay, so you're saying that you live your life 50% of the time expecting something evil to happen to you.
That's not what that
No,
means.
that's not what I
Okay,
said.
so what I want to know is the world is there more good in the world or is there more evil? That's all I want to know.
That's a very vague question.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
well, I mean, it seems like you guys don't even want to answer that question. How can we have a conversation?
No, it's just a very vague question. That's what you're asking. It's not anything to do with actual specifics.
Okay, so when you look at someone says, "Oh, look at this child who's suffering from some childhood disease." Okay, well, what about all the other children that aren't suffering from the childhood disease?
When you guys sit there and say thoughts and
is that
prayers, how many
evidence
prayers
that
does it
God
take
is
to
more-
cure
is
something?
that-
1, 5,
that's
20,
evidence that God
500,
is more
1,000,
probable or
2,000,
not?
8 million?
Is that evidence that God is more probable or not?
Question.
I mean, look, I'm asking you guys questions and you can't even answer them. How can
And I just asked you a question as well that you didn't want to answer.
How
When
can I
you say
think that
thoughts and
there's-
prayers about something, how many prayers does it take for that thing to finally get cured or fixed? 5, 2, 100,
just one.
1,000?
Maybe just one.
So
No, you know what gets
I mean,
things
we're
fixed?
talking
Getting
about-
off your ass and fixing them.
Do you think that answered prayer isn't beneficial?
It does nothing.
Oh, well, how would you know that?
Look at me, I'm doing great, and I don't pray daily.
Okay.
Look
but
at
how
all
do
the
you
people
know?
that sit there and pray daily that aren't doing great.
Okay, so how do you know? Let me ask you this: How do you? This is one of the terribly stupid ass arguments that I hear from atheists is that it's been demonstrated that prayer doesn't work. And I laughed when I see that because I can tell that the atheist and the
Let me ask you this simple
the
question.
academic
The
making
earth
this
is how
claim,
old?
academic making this claim doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. Because here's what I want to know.
Let me ask you this simple question. How old is the earth?
I'm gonna finish what I'm saying real quick.
No, because
How
you're
would you-
sitting there saying that
how
prayers
would
do
you
work.
know-
Simply,
how would you
how
know-
old is this planet?
How would you know that the cure for certain diseases and the treatments for certain diseases isn't the result of answered prayer?
because okay, is that
It's
a
an
real
honest
question?
answer. It's an honest question.
Because
So
it doesn't
if I
work. You don't
So
sit
if
there
I-
and pray, it goes away. You go to the doctor and get it taken care of. Like I said,
Did you hear-
praying
I'm
does
gonna
nothing.
ask the
It's
question
getting
again.
off your
How
ass
would
and
you
doing
know-
something that fixes
How
it.
would you know that
So-
the cures we have for diseases and the treatments we have for diseases
Because if
today
praying worked, my
is
dad would
not
have
a
fucking died from
result-
cancer
is not a
20 years ago
result
almost, you
of
jackass.
answered prayers.
if someone goes to the hospital for chemotherapy,
I
right,
want to answer.
it can-
I'm going to have to look. If y'all don't have an answer,
I'm
to the question,
answering
I'm
you.
gonna
I'm
just-
answering
I literally
you.
just answered
I'm
you
giving
too.
you an answer. I'm
Okay,
giving
go
you an
ahead.
answer, right?
Okay.
So if someone goes to the hospital for chemotherapy, we can track exactly how their body responds as that chemotherapy progresses through their body, right? We can see that the cancer responds to the chemicals within that chemotherapy. We can see how the cancer gets smaller as the dosage over time of that chemotherapy builds up and how that cancer will eventually go into remission, right? None of that is due to prayer, right? Because someone could not pray.
You
and
don't know that.
chemotherapy would. No, I'm not finished, right? Someone
Yeah.
could
Okay.
not
No,
pray.
you've spoken
No,
enough
but
here.
can I
I'm
finish?
saying you don't
I'm
know
not
that.
done. But
You
let me
don't know
finish.
that because you haven't even answered my question here. My question wasn't how.
He
My
answered
question
it, and
was
I'll
not-
answer it again. If praying
my
worked, then my
question
dad
was
wouldn't have
not-
died from cancer 15 years ago almost.
My question was not how does chemotherapy work? Pay attention to what I'm asking. Put your listening ears on, atheist. I didn't ask how chemotherapy works and how we track the progression of how the treatment works. What I'm asking is, how do you know that the chemotherapy treatment in general wasn't the result of answered prayers of people who worked on it, who studied it, who did all of this for years and years and said, God, give me the wisdom to be able to come up with treatments for cancer. I want to do, and God is granting this prayer. So when a person is being healed today because of treatments in medicine and things like that, how do you rule out that there wasn't lots of people praying for that in the past, and this is just the result of answered prayer? The problem is no one can rule that out. And because you can't rule that out, you can't claim a prayer doesn't work. In fact, look at our Western civilization today that we live in, what we enjoy. How do we know that that wasn't the result of many, many answered prayers throughout the centuries that brought us to this today? Because God is loving, He hears us when we speak, and that He grants, when we ask in Jesus' name, He grants these prayers. How can we rule that out? We can't rule it out. That's the point.
Am I right in my assumption that you believe in magic, sir? Do you believe
No, you're wrong in your assumption.
Do you believe in magic, sir?
No.
That you ask God for a thing and He magically gives it. I mean, it's not by sight.
No, I don't believe in magic.
Through some kind of weird kind of angel magic, sir.
I believe in supernatural, divine works of God.
Magic. That is literally magic, sir.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Jesus walked on water.
So this is magic is sleight of hand. Magic is this idea of conjuring up certain, in the Bible, demonic things, spiritual things like that. This is not what we're doing. This is from God. It's not the same as it's not sleight of hand. It's not a magician getting on stage and doing a magic trick.
That's not what magic is.
So when you say magic is same thing, I mean, really, I could just simply say that you guys believe in magic too, when you believe that the immaterial or the material can produce the immaterial. You can get order from chaos, things like this. Why can't I just say that's magic as well? What I'm saying is, don't come up on stage and say some stupid crap like, oh, you believe in magic when you don't know what you're talking about.
Can I say
That's not
something
the
real
definition of magic.
Sure.
Did you say sure to me? Sorry.
Yes.
I was just want to make the point, and I promise I'm not trying to sound rude when I'm saying this, but, they talk about how, Jesus turned water into wine, Jesus walked on water, Jesus healed people. You don't consider that magical?
No, I consider that
Sounds a lot like magic to me.
supernatural.
Almost
If you let me ask you something. If you saw a magician today walk on water, what would you think?
Okay,
Is he performing magic?
No.
Here's the thing. I've been quiet this whole time, real quick. I think Host is getting a little bit confused, and I know you're going to argue that you aren't, but just give me 1 second. The definition of magic changes throughout time.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
So what you're talking about is the modern definition of quote unquote magic, which, as we all know, isn't magic. As you said, it's sleight of hand. It's not magic. It's sleight of hand. And they'll admit that to you today. They aren't doing magic. They're doing sleight of hand. So what they're asking, as in like the other people on this panel, they're asking if you believe in the traditional definition of magic. That's what they're asking.
Okay, so what is the traditional definition?
Turning water into wine, walking on water, curing disease just by putting your hands on somebody's forehead.
I reject that being magic.
But that is
I
the
wanna know-
definition of
I wanna
magic.
know,
Textbook definition of magic.
Maybe it's the case the way you're defining magic. You're
No,
just simply
that's the way the-
saying the magic
that's the way
is
the
supernatural.
dictionary
Is that
defines
all
magic.
you're saying?
I can give you the
Let me
current
just ask you,
definition, and I can give you the past
Are you
definition.
simply saying that magic and supernatural, are you using those synonymously?
No.
Okay, then
To
I
a
need to
certain
know a
extent,
distinction.
yes, but
Okay, wait a second.
they're not the same, but they are
Just don't know how to
Yes.
comprehend it.
Someone else said no, so I'm trying to figure out what the issue is here. It seems like you're contradicting each other. You're disagreeing with each other.
Yeah, no. So I'm because I'm not talking to any of them. I'm talking to you. That's
Okay.
why. So To
So how are
supernatural.
you using the word magic then?
Yep, let me get there. All right, I'm going to give you both definitions, and they are literal definitions. I'm not quoting myself. This is from Oxford.
Okay.
All right, supernatural is the manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature as they are explained.
Okay.
Magic in and of itself is the power of influencing the course of events by mysterious or supernatural forces. So
Okay,
magic
so
can be supernatural, but supernatural is not magic.
If you're just simply saying that magic is the result of supernatural forces, and you've got a broad sweeping definition.
Yep,
then
that is
sure.
what magic is.
Okay, so you're saying when Jesus turns water into wine, you're saying he's performing magic, even though no one else could ever do that, right?
Yes, in the definition sense, yes.
So what you're saying is there's certain magic events, or what you're calling, that are so improbable, the only person that could be doing it is someone that was divinely inspired.
No, so I never said divine, nor did I say divinely inspired. Right?
Okay, well, wait a second. I'm trying to, because it sounds like you're saying, okay, well, if we're just talking about magic in the general colloquial sense, then it seems like you're saying that any magician could probably turn water into wine.
Okay, so again, this is the difference between current magic and the understanding of the definition and actual traditional magic.
You haven't cleared that up.
Okay, so I will by saying you're saying okay, hang on a second, hang on. You're saying that a person today turning water into wine would be considered quote unquote magic, even though they will admit to you that it's not actual magic, it's not supernatural or mysterious, it is simply sleight of hand, right? Would you admit that? Would you? Okay, so in that sense, you either need to lie on the side with Jesus. You need to lie on the side of either he's doing the same thing and he's doing sleight of hand and it's not magic, or he actually is breaking the laws of nature and physics and all of these things to do the thing that you're talking about, which again is magic.
And yes, I'm saying he's actually breaking the normal laws of physics and nature to do these things.
Okay, perfect. So real quick, the last person who you just yelled at and said, no, it's not magic, it was magic. That's exactly what you were talking about. It's magic. All right, so that last person, what they said was correct. It's just they didn't explain it well, but they were right.
Well, no, actually, see, I deny that that's magic. What I say, because Jesus is the divine Son of God, divine himself, that is divine intervention on the laws of nature. That's why we call it's called a sign or a wonder in the Bible.
And what is the definition of magic?
Well, it doesn't say anything about the divine interacting, does it?
Supernatural and divine.
Okay, supernatural and divine. So based on that definition there, then sure, that's magic.
Okay. So,
but are you getting that from Oxford?
Yes.
Good gosh, I didn't know they were such a shitty. That's a terrible definition.
That's actually a pretty good definition.
I'm also getting it from
magic. It amazes me that academics today can sound so stupid.
Okay. Here's my other question. Hang on a second. I have one more question. One more question. So it's based off of the magic definition. And if you want to, we don't have to appeal to definitions, as obviously that's a fallacy. You feel me? Everyone makes their own definitions. Definitions are predetermined, right? They're not determined. So my question for you now is, what is the definition of faith?
Faith? Well, if you use what Google would say, it's a complete,
I don't want Google. I want the definition.
Okay, the definition according to Hebrews 11 is what I go with.
Okay, cool. So give it to me.
It's the evidence. I'm trying to remember exactly how it said. The evidence of things unseen, the hope. I'd have to look it up. I can't really look it up at the moment, but
it's all good.
That definition is what I'm saying.
I can give it to you if you'd like. I have it in front of me.
Sure.
So Hebrews 11:1 defines faith as the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen.
Yes.
Right. So.
Or the King James version says the evidence of things not seen.
Okay, so that's a fair enough definition. If I go to the dictionary, it says complete trust or confidence in someone or something.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that is the general definition. In that definition, in the same definition as magic, there is no reference to fact, truth. And now, again, let me just get to the end of this. There's no definition to fact or truth. And the reason I say that is because it is the assurance of things hoped for and the convictions of things not seen, which means you physically cannot prove faith. In the same way that you were arguing earlier, magic is a very difficult thing to prove unless someone's very upfront with you and telling you it's fake or real.
It depends on what magic you're talking about. I think what a magician is doing would be pretty easy to prove.
Okay, but you just said if they turn water to wine, you would need them to tell you because it's the same thing Jesus did, right?
No, I'm saying that I don't think they could do that.
Okay, so a person today...
It would necessarily be a sleight of hand for them to do that. There would be some sort of trick that they're playing on you. It's not actually ontologically what's going on.
Okay, so you're saying that the people who you see today who do magic, you can prove that that's not magic, right?
Well,
that's
I'm not a magician, but I know that there's magicians that could do this.
Yeah, most definitely. You go and watch Penn and Teller, you feel me? They start moving their bodies around, you're like, it's not real. Like, but you may not be able to prove it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the same argument for Jesus. You may know. No, hang on, let me finish. You may know, and you may have that conviction and that truth, right? And that faith. And understand that I'm not arguing against your faith. I am simply making the precedent that your argument for these magicians, not actually knowing whether or not they're magic, but you're pretty sure that they don't know it because it doesn't really actually make sense. And it doesn't logic. It's the same argument against God and against Jesus.
Okay, wait a second. Are you saying God doesn't make sense logically?
Yeah, no, 100% he does not make sense logically.
Okay, so when the founding fathers say something like, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed with rights from their creator, among which life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Are you saying that they are illogical when they say, we hold this truth to be self-evident?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that it's not evident at all, it's not self-evident at all that humans have been created by something and that they have this unique rights from their creator.
No. In terms of a creator, no, that's not a thing.
The whole foundational documents of our nation was built upon an illogical belief. That it's self-evident.
I'd like to point this out real quick.
Let me just finish. Yep. That it's self-evident that we have these rights from a creator. That's illogical.
No, okay, so that concept,
is that what you're
creator. Yeah, so what I'm saying is you're conflating creator with God. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so when the founding fathers said we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed with certain inalienable rights from their creator, among which life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If I were to say that we were created, are you saying that that's illogical? Yes or no?
In terms of being we've come out of our mothers, yes, but in terms of your concept of creator being correlated to God and then God being the creator who gave us, no. That isn't illogical. Do you think
that the founding fathers were saying we hold these truths to be self-evident? All men are created equal from their parents, among which life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. You're saying that when they're saying this, their creator they're just referring to their parents. Is that all they're saying?
I'd agree with that, considering the fact that we had slaves at that time, and also women didn't have the same rights as men.
So why, okay, then that's a problem. Then why, if the women didn't have the same right as the men, then why would it be the case that they would be saying that these rights come from their parents, including the woman?
Because of how women were seen back in that time.
Well, that doesn't answer the question. You're just restating claim. What I'm saying is the claim here, it seems like you were saying is irrational to believe that it's self-evident that we were created. But what y'all are saying is the founding fathers were just referring to being created by their parents. But if that's the case, if you're saying the woman doesn't have the same rights, and yet she's the creator who gives you these rights, that doesn't make sense. You understand that, right?
Yeah, so it does make sense, and let me explain to you why it does make sense. No, let me explain to you why it makes sense, because, one, women were seen as tools, right? So you could make a house with a drill. Doesn't mean the drill made the fucking house. It's your house. You made the house, right? And it's the same way that they saw women. You may have a child, but that's not her child. That's your child because you're the man and it's your child. That's literally
Okay.
how women were seen.
So what we should say, we should change today. What you're saying is, and this is kind of funny. It's interesting that you're saying this. So what we should say is, we should rewrite this document to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men were created equal by their mother and father, with certain inalienable rights from their mother and father, among which life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what the founding fathers were actually saying, right?
Okay, so
is that what you're saying?
I never said that's what they said. I never said that's what they said.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what you're saying is illogical, because you said you were talking about faith and saying faith in God is illogical. And then I just pointed out here where these founding fathers said it's self-evident that we were created. And you're saying, nah, they're talking about their parents were created by our parents. And you're trying to say that they meant their parents. Don't you think that's kind of an absurd claim?
No.
Where is that claim coming from?
So then we should be able to just change the words. We hold these truths to be
didn't even say
self-evident.
parents, yo. Like, that's what's fucking me up. I didn't even say just the parents. I gave an example as that being a creator. Creator can mean fucking anything, but you're correlating it to God.
So
that's the problem.
They're saying creator in the sense that they're just saying that your parents are the creator, is all you're saying, right?
No, I'm saying you are correlating it to God. I gave an example of what it could mean.
Okay, so
they are talking about God, though.
It could mean creator, because what y'all wanting to do, I think I've got y'all over a barrel here. Because
No,
you
you
wanted
don't.
to
Trust
say,
me.
I think that you wanted to say that it's irrational to believe that you were created by a God.
It's not
But then
irrational, it's illogical.
I pointed out, or illogical to believe you're created by God.
Completely rational.
What'd you say?
Said it's completely rational. Many people need faith and religion to help them get out of personal situations.
The other guy, I don't know. You guys contradict yourselves all the time. Atheists can never.
Again, I'm talking to you, and I'm not atheist.
Yeah, but the other
so again,
guy,
try again. Your assumptions don't work.
The other guy said it was irrational or illogical.
That's great. I don't care what he said.
Okay,
I said it's illogical.
You need to start caring, because I can't debate people who if you're atheist on stage trying to go against me, now I could beat 20 atheists one-on-one with just me against 20 atheists.
Yeah, and that's what you should be doing. We're not a team of atheists trying to debate you.
I can't debate atheists who are contradicting each other at the same time and trying to say, well, you're talking to me when I'm also talking to the other person, and y'all are
You're talking to the other person. I'm not. Stop talking to them and talk to me.
So you think that the other person is wrong here, right?
I don't care about the other person.
Okay, just a yes or no question. The atheist
I'm not answering that because we're not talking about another person.
Well, if you don't answer this question, you're getting to boot. Yes or no?
I don't care.
Dude, you are so soft when you kick people.
Okay,
Jesus, man. That's what I said.
Look, here's what I love doing when I get
Dude,
atheists.
Are you really that soft? You kicked them because you couldn't handle
when I get atheists
not talking about other people?
When I get atheists on stage and they contradict each other, and then they don't want to go after each other and correct their contradiction, their disagreement, I kick them. Because, look, you guys are the ones.
You are softer than a roll of toilet paper, my man.
You guys claim that you're open to honest dialogue and stuff.
I bet you have a cuck chair in the corner of your bedroom, don't you?
You're open to disagreement. You're open to disagreement, and yet you bootlick each other. Why is it the case? Why is it the case? There's two things I noticed that atheists love to bootlick. It's each other. If it's another atheist, even if they disagree with each other, they will bootlick each other till the cows come home. And they'll bootlick other religions to go after Christianity. So I find it interesting that when you're on a stage against a Christian, an atheist will bootlick another Muslim, they'll bootlick a Hindu, a Buddhist, they'll bootlick someone else.
What does this mean? What are you talking about when you say that? Do you have any actual examples, or are you just pulling stuff from
literally
the air?
just had an example just right now. We just had an example here where a guy said that it's irrational or illogical to believe that we were created by a God. And then the other guy, when I started putting up our founding fathers and what they believed, and the other guy said, no, it's not irrational to believe that we were created by a God. And I wanted to say, okay, well, look, we have two atheists on stage that are in disagreement. And I wanted to let them sort out this disagreement, because I can't debate two people that are contradicting each other at the same time. I want them to sort this out, and then we can debate. But see, when I point this out, I do this a lot. I've done it on Discord, Clubhouse, whatever. I'll get the atheists. I'll point out a disagreement with them, try to get them to settle their disagreement first, and they don't want to do that. They want to bootlick each other. I don't care what this guy thinks. I don't care. I'm talking to you. Okay, well, I can't talk to you if your fellow atheist here is contradicting what you say. You understand
those two
that, right?
people didn't believe that. Those two people weren't of the same belief system. One was atheist and the other one wasn't. You know that, right? So them disagreeing wasn't inherently
you're saying
wrong.
one of them was a Christian?
Atheist.
Are you saying
I
one
don't
was a
know.
Christian?
They didn't say what they were.
They
said they weren't atheists.
Maybe it was the case they were a Christian, but they sure were awful aggressive towards me if they were a Christian. Don't you think that's kind of odd? Don't you think?
No, Christians don't have to be a monolith. So them disagreeing with you doesn't mean anything, right? I wouldn't say that all people
I don't think it's the case that they were a Christian at all. I don't think anybody on stage here was a Christian. In fact, I actually prefer Christians not to come up here on stage at the moment because I'd rather just have this conversation with agnostics or atheists or people who are non-Christian.
I'm an atheist. I guess I'd be anti-theist if that's what you mean.
Sure, anti-theist
I'm a
is fine.
non-believer myself.
But what I'm trying to say here is he said something interesting. He tried to say that he was trying to say belief in magic and faith in God were the same things, and he was using the definition of complete trust and confidence in someone or something was one of the definitions he's agreeing with.
For faith.
So I got a question.
Yes.
Well, I'm confused
I got a question for everyone
why
on stage here.
both of the atheists were
Do you have complete trust and confidence in the reliability of your own cognitive faculties?
What does that mean?
Do you have faith?
Like words.
Do you have faith in your cognitive faculties to come to knowledge?
What does in what sense do I have the
presuppositional
Do
thing?
you have complete trust and confidence?
No, is the answer you want to hear, and no is the answer.
So the answer is no. You don't have complete trust and confidence that your cognitive faculties are reliable enough to come to knowledge, right?
Correct.
What cognitive faculties?
Then why are you up on stage having this conversation?
I would like to answer that question.
Well,
you're just rambling, right?
No, he's not. He's not. I know what he's saying.
I'm just asking, why are you up on stage having this conversation? If you lack faith in you lack trust and confidence in your cognitive faculties to obtain knowledge.
No,
Let me explain that. There's a very simple answer. We have axioms in life that we have to use in order to have communication or to have any kind of a society to begin with.
Yes.
Okay. So what you're telling me is we have certain axioms that cannot be demonstrated evidentially, that there's no arguments for evidentially. We just presuppose that they're true, right?
Respectfully, just to save everybody all the time here, what it boils down to, I know what you're saying with the presuppositionalism. What you're doing is the exact same thing that I'm doing, except you're adding a God into it.
Exactly.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
And because you are, by your own admission, I will agree with you. I don't think any of us should have complete trust and confidence in the reliability of our own cognitive faculties. Because we also know from our own scientific adventures that our cognitive faculties can be very unreliable at times, right?
Respectfully, I don't think that this is I mean, if you're trying to talk about
you would agree with that, right?
To a certain degree, but
okay.
What you're doing is you're using it's not like a tongue twister. It's a different type of word. It's like a riddle, but like a limerick almost, because it's doesn't have a point. It's just supposed to be witty or funny.
I think it does have a point, because what you're saying here that we are all doing the same thing, but we don't need God, is what you said. But yet,
no, what I'm saying, the point I'm making when I said that, I wasn't trying to insult you. What I'm saying is, it's not that you're not making a point. It's that you're trying to make a point with it. It can't make a point because it's an abstract. It doesn't have a conclusion, so you can't make a point with it.
Well, I think it does have a conclusion. So if I were to say something like this, premise one, blank is the necessary precondition for us to have trust and confidence in our cognitive faculties, Premise 2, we do have trust in our cognitive faculties. Conclusion, X exists or X established that confidence. What would you put in that?
No,
What would you
you're
put in
actually
that
not using
blank?
those terms correctly, but I don't want to be mean and I don't want to nitpick that. That's just it's gonna
Yeah,
close
it's
your
not a
brain down.
perfect syllogism, but
No, I
what would you
understand.
put there to justify? Because by your
So,
own admission that we do trust in our cognitive faculties, but
okay,
our
I
cognitive
don't mean this
faculties are actually
derogatory. I want you to know
unreliable,
that I really
prone to
respect you.
mistakes,
We're having
right?
a great conversation. So what I'd like to say
Oh my.
is when you take a complicated topic and you try to simplify it to almost an absurd level of obscurity so that you can break down the elements like this, you're not actually breaking it into a simpler idea. You're just looking at it simple-mindedly. You can't take a complicated system as much
Okay.
as consciousness and reality and then break it down into a three-part, if you can imagine it, then it's true.
Well, I'm not doing anything that you guys wouldn't disagree with scientifically or from our own
Okay,
philosophical
can I ask something?
explorations, right?
Yes,
Can I?
go ahead. I'm going to shut up.
No, it's okay. Can you repeat the first premise, host?
Premise 1, blank is the necessary precondition for us to justify
Okay. So
faith in our own cognitive faculties. Premise 2, we do have faith in our own cognitive
I just
faculties.
asked for premise
Conclusion,
1.
blank exists or something. Blank is necessary.
Okay. So So X is necessary. So how did you? I'm assuming that X in your worldview will be God.
Yes. I would say
Okay.
God is
So
the necessary
well.
precondition to
Okay.
justify faith in
Okay.
our own cognitive
Okay.
faculties.
Okay. So my question would be, how did you determine that, and why couldn't it be something else?
Well, from a philosophical perspective, it's pretty easy to determine because by our own admission, we admit that our own cognitive faculties are unreliable, subject to delusions, subject to false beliefs, subject to manipulations, hallucinations, all of this stuff. So based on our own experience in science, we've actually undermined our own cognitive faculties. So then we have to say, then we're in this epistemic vicious circle. So we have a faulty tool that we're using to try to establish truth. And why would we even trust that we can establish truth at all with such a faulty tool? So in order to justify that we can do that, we would need to believe in something that's not faulty, that's infallible, that's infinite, and God, a mind that can ensure this can happen, and God is that mind. Conclusion, God is necessary.
Yes.
I
So it
think where
sounds
you,
very circular.
It is circular,
yeah.
but to stay on the topic
Well, I
of
mean, you
the
can
prompt,
just replace. What would you replace God with? Then you don't.
Well,
you don't
X
know.
is the
I,
You
necessary
don't know.
You don't
I'm not.
know. Is that what you're saying?
I
I
think
don't
the
know.
issue comes where like the amount that you assume our mental faculties are wrong versus like how often they're right. I think there's like a disconnect there, right? Just because something has the potential to be wrong doesn't mean that it can never be trusted, right? I drive my car, but there's always a potential that the tire could pop and I could swerve off and hit a semi truck, right? But I still
Yeah.
drive my car with the faith and the trust that it'll work reliably, right? The same way that I trust my own mental faculties. That doesn't require anything higher or
not
anything supernatural in that regard, if that makes
Well,
sense.
I mean, yeah, I'm admitting you guys are trusting your cognitive faculties, and that from your own experience, you could say your cognitive faculties haven't let you down in certain things. But by your own argument, sometimes against intelligent design, against theism and stuff like that, you're actually relying on your cognitive faculties actually letting you down.
okay. Real quick,
For
pause.
example,
I just need to ask you a real quick question here. When you're talking about going back to a Christian nation here, or going back to Christianity, you're implying that we were founded or were a Christian nation at
well,
some
what I
point
mean,
here.
yeah, no, I don't. I wouldn't say we were established as a Christian nation. I believe we had this idea of freedom of religion. Obviously, what I'm saying is when we were established and what we the things that we did, the reason why we ended slavery, the reason why we came up with women's rights, the reason why we had this care for the poor, care for the needy, all this was all fundamentally Christian ideas that we
And that's
that
something I want to talk
we incorporated into our society, and now we've gone away from those fundamental ideas to these fart in the wind ideas. And I'm saying it's time to get back to these fundamental, basic ideas that Christianity offers us.
No,
Could you not have a core set of ideas, though, that doesn't revolve around Christianity, that just revolves around common decency, respect, things of that nature, like broader concepts that don't have to be tied to religion?
I suppose theoretically you can, but look what happens when we start going away from our Christian values that we held to. Look at how confusing the last 10 years has gotten, to where even young children are encouraged to question their gender and things like that.
That was early Germany's doing. That was the beginning of the World War II when they started doing that to trans people.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Seems like you're using religion almost, or as a gateway to other things. That's what it's getting at.
Well, I believe that Christianity, if you look at the historical facts around Jesus Christ, his existence, his crucifixion, and the events afterwards, and what happened through that timeline of events, if we really look at that in an unbiased, objective way, it leads one to really ask some deep questions. And why is it the case, if this isn't true, that society could transform based off of a hallucination or a lie or whatever? And if that's the case, then what really is the importance of truth to us? As long as it benefits us pragmatically from the atheist perspective, then you shouldn't have a problem with it. That's the entailments, I believe, when you start doing this. Or you could kind of say, you know what? This transformation of the world after Jesus Christ, what it looks like now versus what it looked like then, tells me that there was more to Jesus than him just being a mere human. And I think these should be honest, objective questions.
What does that even mean? Go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to, because we kind of brought it up a little bit, and that's like one of the reasons why I wanted to come up, is that I wouldn't call myself a Christian, but at least from what I learned when I used to go to the church is that, talks about how, Jesus helped the poor, Jesus helped the immigrants, love thy neighbor, all these kind of things say, God is all loving. And in my opinion, and I'm guessing you voted for Trump because you said with the new president. Okay. I personally
actually voted for Trump all three times.
All three times? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I personally believe Trump, or anyone who voted for Trump, is not a Christian, because, in my opinion, because what Christianity has always been advertised is that it's all about, helping people who are struggling, be merciful, be kind, all these things, and it's becoming the total opposite of that. Like the fact that how so many people have issues with the bishop saying, hey, Trump, be merciful, be kind on these humans, and that was like what God was all about. And you guys are being the complete opposite of that, in my opinion.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you say that, because I had an atheist saying that the other day, and saying that I wasn't acting Christ-like and wasn't following my beliefs, saying the exact same thing, acting hypocritical. But then later on, they were saying that the Bible is endorsing slavery and oppression and all this. So that obviously showed me so
I think there's a lot.
There would be someone up on stage now, if I were to say, yeah, these are great things, we need to get back to them, there would be somebody who would inevitably say, the Bible condones slavery. The Bible condones misogyny and mistreating of women. So what you're saying here, what's that? Are you saying that when you've read the Bible, you understand the proper context of the Bible, and that the overall message of the Bible, put in the proper context from Genesis to Revelation, is that we offer love, justice, and mercy to everyone, because we're all in God's
Mhm.
image. Is that what you would say would be a message of the Bible?
Well, just Christianity in general, like what I learned about when I used to go to church,
Okay.
or when I went to church groups, and what I learned is that
Well, I don't
they would talk about
disagree
how
with you.
God is
Yeah.
God is all loving, and the immigrants, help the poor, help people who are looking for asylum, and we're doing the complete opposite.
Well,
Like,
see,
we're
I
not
don't think
helping the immigrants. We're
we're
not
doing the
helping the
complete
poor.
obvious. I think we're actually acting more in line with that view with Trump than we were with the Democrats. Because what the Democrats had this idea of just open borders, anybody come in, no vetting, no nothing, and they didn't seem
That's
to care that
untrue, though.
It is untrue.
foreigners were being exploited, lower wages, treated like
That's
slave
just
labor.
not true.
Well, it is
They
true.
Can I
weren't.
push back on that?
One of the
Can I push
arguments
back on that a
I
little
actually
bit?
saw,
Do it
I
in an
actually saw this
ethical way.
just a few weeks ago.
So,
They were talking about them. Trump. He's been a lot getting people who were here illegally, and this person was asking one of the Trump administration. I can't remember who it was about. Well, these farm people, no, they can't get people to pick these things to do this stuff, and it sounded very much like what a antebellum South slaveholder would have argued in the South in the 1800s. And
I
the
think
guy
you guys
actually
you're
are
pointed
making
that
missing the
out,
point is
saying it
that
sounds like you're arguing for exploiting illegal aliens with lower pay and
no,
stuff
you're
like that.
missing the
And so
point.
I think Trump is
host,
actually doing the right thing here.
you're making a really good point about how lower class people are often exploited for their labor, and that has been historically happened to brown and black people, right? You're making a great point on that. The problem is, right, when you're talking about this, the solution isn't to just kick these people out and force them away, right? Because these are productive members of society that are contributing.
Exactly.
What you should do is you should give them more rights, give them better pay, so that then they can raise themselves out of poverty through earned income, right? Give them actual citizenship so then they can have the full rights, full protections, right? Because if you're coming here and working these extremely grueling, physically demanding jobs, you're not here to cause problems. Would you agree?
Sure, there's some people that were genuinely here not to cause problems. But the one
Okay, so
thing
right,
that
so
I, the
those,
one,
okay,
one
right,
thing
so we
that, well,
agree.
wait a second.
We agree.
That's probably 50% of the population. The other 50%
How do
is
you? Where
here
does that
just
number
to.
come from?
They're exploiting children. They're
Where
doing
does
this
that
other
number
stuff,
come from?
drugs and things like that. So
Where does that number come from? Where are you getting that number?
it's just an estimation. But
So
I
you're
do.
getting that number based off pure nothingness. You're pulling
So
that
you're
number out of your
pulling.
ass.
I'm just saying that I would imagine, based off of what
No,
I'm
but you
seeing.
can't do that,
Okay,
right?
well,
Because you're just making
it doesn't
assumptions,
matter to
man.
me.
It should.
If only 10% were doing this, what we've done, the Democrats caused this problem, and unfortunately, Trump is, as hard as this may be to do this, we just have to do it. And it's kind of like you see my you see what
So, but
hold on just a second.
But what
You
they're
see
doing is not
you see what I've got
ethical.
up there on my PTR, my picture. It says, "I don't care, Margaret." Look, at this point, you're just going to have to say, look, some of what you're saying might be legit, but the Democrats put us in this situation.
okay, so
We've got to
then
do this.
question,
And we just don't
follow-up
care
question,
what you're saying at the moment until it gets done. But let me just
follow-up question.
finish what I'm saying right here. Um, the we do know for a fact that there's been, and this has come out just this week, a lot of who come illegal from other countries just getting a lot of money thrown in their lap. They get to stay in these places that expensive hotels and stuff like that. And that tells me that the Democrats had a different motive in mind than to just bring them in and make them members of society. And I think
What is
if
that?
whoever wants to come in through the right channels can do so,
So,
because I worked with people. I worked with a lot of people from South America in my last job, and they were pissed off, thoroughly pissed off that people could come from South America. These people went the right way, got their citizenship. They could not stand the idea of Democrats just letting people in like that. They hated it. And I think that's why you have a lot of Hispanics voting for Trump this time, because they didn't like it.
So what does that have to do with anything, though? You're talking about a group of people that are upset that people are getting brought into the country.
They understand that America is set up to benefit those who really want to give back, but the ones that just want to come and take, which I would say.
But how do you judge who's clear to come and take
50%
without being
or more
biased?
I would just guess, if I were being generous, 50% or more of all the people that come across the border were here more to just take than to give. And that's evident.
But again,
evident for
right.
the fact that you don't see near as many people coming across the border now since Trump got elected.
But again, where do you get those numbers from? You're not getting those numbers from anywhere useful. That's a complete and utter fabrication.
Well, see,
that.
I definitely can't get them from the statistics the left offers, because they've been disproven time and time again. I don't know how to get those. I don't know since the last.
So you say you can't. So you can't get any valid statistics from the last 20 years from any source?
I'm saying that any statistic that comes from certain sides of the aisle are going to fall into what's called the Simpson paradox. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a great, deep philosophical problem where statistics, depending on how they're worded and how they're gathered, if you just change one line of the statistics, it looks completely different than what we're seeing. Like if you were to say, hey, look.
That's any statistics,
if you were to say 90% of all of these people here just come across because they want to have a job in America to be able to provide for their family. And then you change the statistic to say, okay, some of these jobs are actually illegal, like selling illegal substance or something. And then the statistic, and so if you toss them out, suddenly it might be like 25% only want to come across it. So what I'm saying is the statistics can vary just changing just one line. So I don't put a lot of trust in statistics either.
That's any statistics, though. That doesn't mean statistics are wrong. That just means you have to analyze carefully what you're looking at.
They would present a false. They would prevent a false.
But you have to take it. Okay, then become better at analyzing content.
That doesn't mean completely discredit statistics. You have to understand how to observe the methodology, and you have to understand the potential factors that can contribute to the outcome. You have to like the other person said, you have to understand how to analyze statistics. You can't just completely discredit.
One of the best.
That's where media analysis comes in. Right?
One of the best examples is this. It's been when the Democrats used to be against gun control so hard, the common statistic they would say is the United States leads the world in homicides by firearms. That's what they would say. Well, that seemed to be, this is terrible.